Right, there you go, 4 cylinders. Rubber suspension front and rear.
Easy Gonis.
Eh?
Easy Gonis.
Yes,
The old Mini.
Yeah,
It's the design before the Mini.
Of course, he converted them to air cooled, you know. Right away with the radiators, but fantastic. Anyway, come through. Right, come through. Where's everybody got to? Jim, do you want to try and round them up? I haven't got the television on. Right. If you go through and tell them to come. Right, come through. See, that's that there. Right. Little sign on the beam there, another day in paradise. So we're in paradise for a day. I only spend 6 days a week in paradise, you know, rebuilding this lot. So where do we start? It's a bit of a jumble, actually. This Montgomery is nigh on complete. Jim's had it running. This is really his project. 1939 Montgomery. 350 Jap twin port, as you can see. Plunger back end, which was quite rare, which is quite neat and tidy. So we bought this in the Netherlands probably 6 months ago. Bit of a wreck, and it came with Horrocks forks on it, which was a bit of a blow. So luckily we had web forks in the store, so we put the web forks on it, got it back to original, and always fancy a Montgomery for some reason. Field Marshal Montgomery or something, Eastern Front, but they're quite sought after Montgomery motorcycles and not very well known, but there we go. So if you can come a bit tighter in, behind me here is, well, on that bench is a 7R AJS frame, and this is the engine here that Jim's working on. Quite unique. That's the cam box, all magnesium, as you know, and this is quite unique. Twin plug cylinder head. Lots of the works bikes, John, of course, all his Nortons, all twin plug, which really makes sense because if you've got two sparks coming together at the same time, the combustion is going to be equal and not one-sided, so you get a lot more performance. You can tell them that at dinner tonight.
I will do. Don't ask me questions later.
So that's the cylinder head. I've got a fin to put on here. So I'll probably make that up when you lot go today, get it welded on. So there you go, twin plug 7R AJ, all magnesium. We feel it's Mike Halewood's. It was bought as a Mike Halewood replica, and we've got some photographs of it in the TT workshop, and lots of things stack up. This is a different, this is non-standard exhaust system. We've had that chrome ready to go. Short stroke. What's a bit crazy too, it's got a smaller piston in it for some reason. It's got a 85mm piston, but there we go. The bore's in good nick, so we're happy about that. We don't have to do any problems there. This is all magnesium, as you know, ready to go off to get grit blasted. Feel the weight of that. You see how much weight they saved. Pass it round. So that's the Conrod system there. And the gearbox is behind you here. It's just a normal 4-speed AMC box. Aluminium clutch plates, which are a bit special. I don't know how they'd stand a racket, but obviously they did. So this was the carburetor is a big bore carb, 35 mil bore carb, which all makes it special, and there's a bigger induction on the cylinder head. So Lacey is in the paperwork too. So Lacey did the bikes for Mike Hillwood, so it all sort of stacks up that it was a Mike Hillwood bike, 1960, 61.
Would that be the one that he was leading the TT?
Yeah, and the
broke
crank.
crankshaft?
Have a look at the crank to see if the pin's broke. There might have been damage on it.
But he would have won the 4 TTs.
He would have won the 4
Finished
TTs that year.
That is something
Last
like-
lap it gave way, didn't it?
Yeah, last lap.
Selby or somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the standard Lucas mag, you see, but we need to find one with a twin spark on it. So you can slip down to Halfords later and try and get me one. So there we go, that's coming along. This is the, shall we, I'll break while we're here, I won't go down there. This is a 4-cylinder Rumi, which we bought. There's a Rumi collection, Mike Webster. The bikes were sold at H&X auctions about 6 months ago, so we bought 4 of them. I took a shine to this one, 4-cylinder 250, lovely engineering, beautiful work, runs quite well. If you speak to Jim nicely, he'll start it up for you. And lovely Italian design. When you think that this is 1954, 55, we were selling Francis Barnett's and James's with Villiers engines in them. So there wasn't a lot of competition. So there you go, square bore and stroke, 250 4-cylinder, lovely styling, and the other ones are inside, which you can probably see down in the racing hall.
Just one of the thoughts on that is that my understanding was that we as a country were unable to machine internal gearbox and engine components because everything we made was on a lathe,
Yes.
where these guys were a little bit ahead of us.
Just a touch, you know,
Yeah.
and split horizontal, which to me was one of the biggest breakthroughs on engine design. When you were working at Bultacos, you had 2 halves and you had put all the gears in and all the shims and then trying to force them together. Whereas this year you put the whole lot down on the bottom cases and then just drop the top on or drop the bottom on. So far easier and more precise to work at. You could get all the shims right, then just drop the sump on and off you went. So there you go, Delorto carbs, 20 mil Delortos, you knew that. Shouldn't have told you that.
You've just told me.
So here we go, this is a 7R frame. Right, 7R frame, I've just had it aqua blasted off and checked it all out for repairs. We had to do a few weld repairs on it, and so I've had it powder coated, came back yesterday. Who's observant then? You're observant, get over here.
Yes, boss.
I won't embarrass you, but you can see how the front there has been reinforced.
You can, yes. Somebody bent
Ken
it.
Sprayson in the paperwork, it had a bit of an accident in his life and he repaired that. But unfortunately, he put that gusset over the frame number. So we've lost the frame number, which is a bit of a blow. But feel the weight of that.
He's going to test me now.
I'm testing you, 531, that's the swinging arm of it there, which is, you know. But that's all powder coated, ready to go together. But a lot of the AMC stuff is like.
Hey, if we're quick, guys, we can get out.
When you're working at AMCs, my first race bike was a 7R AJS. Dad bought it for me, and first time out I won the Cookstown 100 on it, so that wasn't bad. Couldn't believe how slow the rest were going, you know. But if you look at the bloody, can't find it, everything is so complicated with like the front brake. you wouldn't believe the bits. Have you had these apart?
No, 7.5, no.
Right. The front brake is a total nightmare. Like, there's about 50 bits in the front brake, you know. And look, even the like of this here, like that's a left-hand thread going that way and a right-hand thread going that way. Don't ask Miller why, but you know. And the guy who designed it must have been away with the fairies because there was no logic in what he was doing, you know.
He wasn't paid on productivity, you see. He just had a job.
Or maybe he was getting a few quid from the
Terry's and all
manufacturer,
that.
from the bits pieces. But it's very, very complicated compared to a Norton front brake, you know. Just frightening. And these here have got to be all independently adjusted so they sort of go together. And the cams are not. They're not the normal cams. These are the cams here, like, so you have two sets of cams. This is a better idea. I don't know if you've done much work on cam form for brakes.
Right.
But when I was racing CZs in the Isle of Man, there was no front brake on this thing. I pity I haven't got one to show you, but...
What do you want, a pencil? Paper?
No, Eric Oliver.
Yeah.
He was a friend of Terry Hill's, so he came along to give us a hand, and he altered the front brake cam from a sort of an oval to a pear-shaped cam, you know, and it was transformed the brake. And also, another thing that he did for us, the back plate, you never want that a tight fit on the spindle because you want to be able to pull the brake on and centralize it and then lock it all up together. Then you're sure that the shoes are 100% in the hub, where the hubs have gone off for painting, otherwise I could have shown you. But brake cam, so that's why that was quite a good brake, because you can see the slow lift rather than the sort of blunt lift on an oval cam, you know. So that's more of a progressive cam. I've got that marked, as you see, blue and red. You can't make enough photographs. You can't make enough drawings and bits and pieces because when you get old, you forget stuff, you see. So I don't want to forget. We've got a new set of gaiters for it because, as you know, putting old gaiters on is kamikaze stuff because to change them is an international saga. Done the forks. I was showing Jim yesterday AMC machining. Let me see if I don't cock this up on myself. Right. If you look at that there, that one goes right. That goes through there nicely, and on the other one, tight fit.
Yeah.
So,
Is that the Friday and the Monday, Mike?
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. So, anyway, these have all been polished, and all the little brake ducts to keep them cool. So that's all ready to go together. I've had a new set of cables made. I don't like messing about. That's all the old cables. Just send them off to David, JJ Cables. Get a new set of cables, and off you go. Switch that bloody phone off. And that's the brake shoes. They're all the linings are in quite good nick, so we're lucky with all that. Swinging arm spindle. So there we go. At the other jump the other week, I bought a whole load of tubing, so that when I come to do it, I've got all, and the clips. So I find there's nothing more aggravating when you've built a bike and all of a sudden you're short of a bit of tube or short of a few washers, you know. So highly aggravating.
So how many man days, weeks or months do you reckon in doing one of these?
Well, I keep driving Jim on quite hard, so I often say, when people say, how long does it take you to build a bike, you know, and I say, well, at the factory they milk 100 of those a day, like, you know. So, and even the old veteran Triumphs and stuff, like, they were doing 1,000 a day, like, you know, at the factory. But anyway, it's generally without disaster hold-ups. This will take about another couple of months to put together and get going.
The thing that's always amazed me about this is when you go back in the day and these things were being raced, and the race mechanics, you know, some idiot riding it would blow it up, and overnight they'd rebuild the damn thing.
It's quite amazing. At the Norton factory, Joe Craig, what was the name of the mechanic? Who was the top mechanic at Norton's? Worked in Birmingham. I met him some umpteen times. He was a great man in carburation. And Joe Craig, he was a fellow Ulsterman. He used to whip the cylinder head off the Norton so Joe Craig could look at the mixture proper and pop it back on again and off you go. So, but anyway, again, when we're going to start the Norton Kneeler up shortly, when they took that to Montleary, right, I can't really get my head around it. It broke the 7-hour bloody world record. Ran for 7 hours, like, you know. And I'm saying, like, bloody changing wheels and changing tires. And then when they finished with the 350, they pulled the engine out of the 350 and put the 500 in. And went out and broke all the 500 world records. Get your head around that then, like, you know.
Yeah.
And even the McCandless brothers in Belfast knocking together featherbed frames, and the fairing and that was made at Shorten Holland's factory in Belfast with vertical takeoff aircraft, because McCandless knew all the guys who did the aluminium work in Shorten Holland's factory. So Rex McCandless come in, Artie Bell, these guys came and really made the fairing for the thing, you know, and like no time at all, you know. Anyway, we'll move on. We're going to start this up for you too. So those who don't have earplugs, you don't want to know, do you? Come in if you wish. All 531, John. And oval tubing, you see how they use the profusely used oval tubing on in places, you know. And you can see where it's been repaired there. You'd pick that up. Nobody else would. So that's all ready to go together. This one here, three-cylinder, the twin-cylinder, well, three-cylinder DKW, but one is a supercharger.
Split single.
Split single with a supercharger.
These are quite quiet, aren't they?
You can hear them in Liverpool when they're racing the Isle of Man, as you can read here. This was just a bit of a feature in Classic Bike last month, actually. So we've had that out. We're going to run it up for you because none of you lot have ever heard of DKW running. Have you heard one? No. Why? Have you? Where did you hear it?
Isle of Man, the 350.
350, yeah. That's in the showroom. That's the Joe Ehrlich 350, not a DKW, but it's the same motor. He had obviously he was an Austrian and he was close association with the DKW factory, and he got a complete bike and the three-cylinder. The 350 split single, which is the EMC, and then we've got a three-cylinder DKW in there with lovely bike. So here we go, water-cooled, split single, as everybody knows. This is the booster piston, so that's the piston that pumps the compression in the crankcase to fire the stuff up to the top end of the action, you know. So that's 120 mil piston, big bugger like that. So you can imagine that floating in and out. forcing the stuff up through to the action stations. And I was reading this here when Hugh won the TT, he only won it by 13 minutes. Half a lap. So, but it wasn't much of a contest but reading this, it's quite, how would you say? Do you know how many mechanics they had in the race shop? Go on, have a guess.
10.
Go on then. Go on, you're switched on.
Don't go on, 20 I would say.
Well, if you read that, you'll find it's 150. And they were the world's top two-strokes, you know. And then even later, when Brune on V2 rockets and Walter Codden, that's where they discovered the formula for the expansion boxes for two-strokes to just put them in another league where the expansion boxes were all psyched in to suck the fuel out of the engine, you know. And Walton Codden, he worked on V2 rockets like Brune, which was on that principle. So they probably had 150 guys here working on two-stroke engines. I should think the V2 rockets had probably 300 guys working on all these exhaust systems and efficiency and so forth. So, and the DKW in the museum, the 125, that was actually bought from Walter Codden's son. Jim Lilly in Belfast bought it. He went out to the factory to pick it up, and Walter Codden showed him around the MZ factory. It was a bit derelict. The flat that Walter Codden lived in, a 14-story block, and Jim Lilly could speak to you for days on his experience there, although he's passed away now. But at the communist factory, everybody got the same money. If you were designing bikes, you got the same money if you were sweeping the floor up. So that's good incentive. So you're a genius, and you're getting the same money as a guy sweeping the floor up.
I read an article about it where they were racing somewhere and they couldn't get out because of the communist block thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So they rang him up. He was, I don't know where it was now, it was South America or somewhere. And the bike wouldn't run.
Yeah.
It would not run.
Yeah.
So they rang him up, indiscreet, you know, like, how would you get the cutter? And he said, yeah, do this, do that, do the other.
Perfect.
And it worked out perfectly. The guy wasn't even there.
I know.
You know, it's unbelievable.
Total genius, but we're very lucky to have that Genuine Works DKW there. So there we go. What was this time of startup? Were you going to?
What time are you?
It's about.
You got another 5 minutes.
Who has?
Yes, you.
What do you want? What do you want another 5 minutes for? Bloody hell, far. I seen you trying to get out the workshop door. These are the rims. We had these rims. Again, nice Dunlop on them. If you can get Dunlop rims, you see that? You know all about Wasurti stuff. You see that? Yeah. WM2 rims. So we're getting new spokes from Central Wheel, butted spokes. The hubs have gone off for painting. It was a bit of a scenario whether we painted the hubs or had them black anodized, but black anodized is tricky, and so most of the guys who race 7 hours now, they just paint them. But what do you do with Jones?
I haven't got a 7 hour.
Haven't you?
No, I wish. I could have this one if you loan it to me.
So those are this AGS units, you know. Oh, shit. They're the later units. The original old jam pots were just total waste of space. And Rod Coleman told me that they were so rubbish that they used to get girling units and put the big jam pot things around the outside. Because in those days, it was like the trial scene. The factory was adamant that you used all the original equipment, you know. And I remember Ron Langston, when he was scrambling, there was a bloody big dual seat on the scramblers, and he threw it away and put a neater, smaller saddle on it. When it came back to the restoration, or the competition shop, when I was there, we were told to take it off and put a standard seat back on it again. And this thing was just, but that was what you were up against, like GOV and one thing and another. They were trying to adamantly keep to production, which fair enough was advertising their products, not saying they're a load of rubbish.
We ruled the world then, though, didn't we?
Yeah.
We ruled the world then in this sort of thing.
That's the primary chain guard. We've done a fair bit of work on that, welding it up. And these are all the levers and stuff ready to go back together again.
Maybe could I ask if anybody's got any questions? Because
yeah.
we could put you on the spot.
Go on then.
Any questions, Sam?
Yes, Sammy, that Rummy, the four-cylinder
Rummy,
Rummy,
yeah.
was that a production bike?
They only made 2 prototypes.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of them.
One of them, yeah. It's quite unique, but it's basically 2 engines stuck together.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you got a Tipolino in the
Sorry?
museum? Have you got the twin in the museum?
Yeah,
The
there's
Tipolino.
4 of them in there. 3 of them in there. They're in the racing gallery on the right-hand side. They're all super sports Italians. The Gentleman's Racer. What's the other one, Jim? The Gentleman's Racer and the super sports and stuff like that.
Tipolino is one I think as well.
So,
Isn't the other one the Turismo? Yeah, Turismo is the other one.
so
Sammy, that Norton's... Is it Doug Hill?
sorry?
Doug Hill?
No, he wasn't a mechanic. It
He was
was
mechanic at Norton's.
Doug Hill. He was the designer from Triumph, you know.
Who was the Polish guy?
Yes. Who was the Polish guy?
He's asking you, not him.
You were supposed to be the
Everyone credits Craig.
Kowalski or something.
Something like everyone credits Craig, but behind Craig was Kalowski or whatever his name.
And he was sweeping the floors up when he arrived there. He was a prisoner of war.
Absolutely.
And he, all of a sudden, it twigged on, and all of a sudden he was in charge of the gas flow in the Norton development shop.
And he also did the van wall.
Huh?
He did the cylinder heads on the van wall Formula One car.
Yes, yeah. That was 4 Mike's heads together.
Coming back to these, wasn't this passed on to Yamaha as a spoils of war, the technology of
The MZ was.
Yeah.
MZ, that's right, yeah.
Degner.
Ernst Degner. He did a runner from the Swiss Grand Prix. He arranged for the family, his wife and kids, to get out of East Germany while he was racing in Sweden. And he had organised during the race to break down the far end of the circuit where he had a taxi or a car waiting for him. He jumped in the car and buggered off while the race was on. So he got a head start on security and got out of Sweden, and his wife was out of East Germany, and then with him he had taken all the plans of the MZ, the Walton Cardin's exhaust systems, all the formulas and stuff, and it didn't go down too good in East Germany. And Suzuki, that's why Suzuki and all the Japanese lot got all the years of from this like development, so that all of a sudden their bikes were like rocket ships, you know. And he ended up then he had a big accident in Spain and in Japan at Suzuka. The bike caught fire and he got badly crashed and he got burned badly, and he ended up in Tenerife actually. And then, 4 or 5 years ago, he committed suicide. So,
Program on the TV about it.
sorry?
That was a very good program on the TV about it.
Was it? Yeah.
And the missile from the east, I think it was called, or something like that.
Yeah. So, all sad stuff, but
Very sad, too.
even when we were in 60, 57, 58 when we were doing the International 6-day trials in Poland and Zakopannie and Krakow. It was one of the educations of my life. So we arrived there, and of course we got all good gear on, t-shirts, belts off, jackets, plugs, oils, spanners, gloves, everything. And all these guys were in the paddock. Wow, God, canvas. So they were buying units off us. They were buying all our spares after the event. So we ended up with like bloody hundreds of pounds worth of slotties, you know. So, right, we're off shopping here. Yeah, we're off shopping. Fucker me, there was no shops. So we gave up in Zakopannie. They said there'd be stuff at the airport. We got to the airport, there was bugger all else there, so we were just giving the money away. Because they wouldn't take it when you got out of it.
There's a young lady suggesting that it's...
Right, go on then.
You've got their lunch is nearly ready in
Right,
the tea rooms,
right.
and the second group is ready to come through.
Right through the door, come on.
This is a seminar area, which is a famous.
Keep going straight down.
Given enough time, it might be several days.